Hello and welcome to Investor Spotlight. Today we have the privilege of having a husband and wife duo on our show today, the Flanagans. We have Brad and Jamie Flanagan, and they're going to tell us a little about how they help new investors get started in real estate. So, welcome, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Great to see you.
Yeah, you guys, you told me a story of how you started your journey, and that's, maybe that would be encouraging to other people who are trying to start their real estate investing journey.
Yeah, so we started ours. It was we were accidental landlords, and we scaled from there. But had a little 2-bedroom, 2-bath house. We actually were divorced. We were married. We divorced from each other, and we remarried each other. And when we came back together, we were in this 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I found out I was pregnant, and then we had our son. And so there was 4 of us in this tiny house, and we were like trying to figure out what was next steps. And Brad's VA veteran, so he had a VA loan that was available, and it really got our journey started as far as like, okay, we could use your VA loan to buy this house. Coincidentally, I was the only one on the mortgage for the FHA loan that was on the primary residence at the time. So we threw it up on Zillow as a rental, and to our surprise, like it happened really fast. We got really great tenants in there. Brad's, you have a thing where you're like, I just wanted to be an investor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, ego-wise, like, I think my grandmother implanted it in me, like, just owning real estate. And so then I really just wanted the title of real estate investor. So that was likely the encouragement for me to be like, let's just hold on to this one, right? It was a 3.5% down payment when you bought it. And, we have the funds needed to acquire the next one. So that's that good old house hacking label, I think, that they tend to put on it. There's different definitions, but that to me is the true house hack, right? You buy a primary residence, buy well within your means, and then try to move up as soon as you can, typically a year or more later. So
So it's kind of cool how there's that legacy thing. Like my dad was also in real estate, and I don't think about that very often, but he was a realtor, and then he owned a couple of different rental properties up on Cape Cod, which we got to enjoy when I was a kid. And, it's just cool to think that there's an impact there, right, from your family, just like you had, Brad. We have that in common too.
huge. And like our justification was honestly that this was like maybe $115,000 townhouse, right? And the cost of education is probably 6 figures now when you add up all 4 years at a decent college institution. And so it's like, how are we going to pay that in the future? Well, over the next 15 years, which is the loan is on a 15-year loan, if we pay this thing off, that's right the time she would be going to college. So then we could either refinance it and then use that to pay for the college, ideally move in, another student and get some rent going so that now the housing's paid for. So it's really like that clear vision in the future, and hanging on to that is the way you get through all those naysayers in the landlord industry or landlord world where they're like, it's too hard, it's not worth it. Well, yeah, maybe when you look at the monthly cash flow on a leveraged property, you're like, it's not worth it compared to something else. But when you look at it zoomed out on a long-term legacy driven vision, it really does become worth it.
Yeah, that's cool to have that long-term view. And you guys sounds like it was almost like a family plan, right? For the kids. That's amazing. So that's it. You bought one house and you stopped at that. That's the end of your real estate journey, right?
No, we got
up
it's like
to 8.
tattoos.
Yeah, we got addicted. It really became like a family business because, okay, so hopefully my family doesn't listen to this. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but working with family can be like, it's a little more difficult, right? So my grandpa passed away, and my dad, I'm like now I love my family. They all use me as their agent. And why I say I actually am the opposite of thinking like a lot of my business comes from my family. So I'm the opposite of people saying like, it's really hard to work with family. But what I meant with that is like there was an estate around my grandpa's house, and the brothers kind of were like, we don't want to, we don't know what to do. They were out of state. My dad was local. So it was like, sell the house one day. Then the next day they were like, let's buy it. Let's flip it together. Then the next day it was like, sell it. And it was kind of this mess. So I was like, well, what if we bought it? And at first my dad's like, that's a great idea. Then the next day it was like, well, why do you get the benefit of the equity? And so there was like all this mess. Anyways, long story short, we did end up buying the house. We didn't really have any money, and Brad had a truck though that was paid off, which was great. So we worked with a smaller bank, community bank, and they were able to give us a loan and used his truck as the down payment. And so we purchased that property. My grandpa totally haunted it. I didn't believe in like haunted houses until that house, like, but I'd be working on it and the thermostat would go like way down or way up. I'm like, oh, he's trying to burn, like, get me out of here. But we were like changing things in the house. And coincidentally, it was like every tenant we got in the house was total crazy
Headache.
Headache.
Yeah.
Like, and if we would have like not had what Brad said, like the vision of like, we now have 2 properties. We've got the one for Hannah, and this one was, my thought was like for James. And if we didn't have that in our head, I probably would have given up at that house because of the kind of the stuff that would stack. One of our tenants drove through the garage door. Another tenant called the city. Like, so we just had like issue after issue. But then when we look at now, we've had up to 80 properties, and the amount of issues we've had, like overall, most of them are in like 2 properties. And so, I encourage like, start with one. And if you have one that's really feeling like this isn't, it just might be that the right property. And the benefit of real estate is you can sell it and buy another property.
Right.
And we talked about like tuition, like that house was our tuition. Instead of us going to college, we learned a lot of lessons. We did go to a little bit of college, but we learned a lot of lessons in that property. And I'd rather learn lessons that way, than a 4-year degree and then still have to learn lessons. So that's just our own personal take on.
And it's like, if I look at myself personally, I've always been experiential type of a learner. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I had this vision or this thought that I wanted to go to college, and it kind of goes back to the tech boom. But then I kind of considered the fact that there was a lot of people who were graduating college, and I was still 4 years behind them, and they couldn't find the job. So then I joined the Army and got the experience there. And then going through the journey on the investment side, you become an analyst. You start to watch numbers, like you're forced into these situations. So like putting your back against the wall so there are no other options is oftentimes a great strategy because you grow from it. And then like there was a point in time where we grew to this, we couldn't figure out how we would be able to scale any bigger and still self-manage it. So then we placed money in a limited partnership. So now we have 75 doors over there. And then we have had at point our peak, maybe 84, 86 doors under wholly owned, personally self-managed stuff. And then all of a sudden a business opportunity comes up and now you're an investor in another operating business because you're diversifying your portfolio. So in total, we went from a $7,000 loan on a vehicle to buy our first investment property to a $20 million portfolio where you get into relatively complex portfolio lending and things of that nature.
Yeah, and that can seem overwhelming to people, I think, when they first start. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to own all those properties. I don't want to have all those headaches. I wouldn't even know where to begin. But like you said, it's just, just start with one property. And that is the learning experience. We learn from our experiences and we get better. And then we can take on bigger and bigger and bigger challenges as we go. Well, you guys are doing that right now. Actually, you, in addition to having your own portfolio of properties and rental properties and real estate investments, you also do some lending. I know you guys help provide the lending for real estate investors, and you're also coaching. Tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing in the coaching realm.
So we get a lot of people who come to us and say, how did you guys do it? And so we basically converted all the quick questions into a boot camp. But what I really get excited about, we have 2 options. So we've got a really low cost where it's like, I don't know if I'm ready to invest, but we've got kind of it's a virtual landlord school essentially. And
Cool.
that is, we're actually just launching that. And like our very first master class is going to be on short-term rentals. So just going to be, here's what we look for in a short-term rental. Here's how to run the numbers. Here's how to launch your Airbnb your profile. And then the following week we do an implementation. So it's basically 4 live calls a month, and gets people really like in the weeds with each other as far as like what to do and how to implement. And then we have a little bit further along boot camp that's we limit it to, I'd say like it's usually less than 20 people, because we do Q&A. But what that one is like the very first session we do is Brad goes through like lending and really understanding, okay, where do I want to go and what do I need? How do I need to package my finances so that I can go to the bank and they want to give me money? Because really that's what, like, especially as entrepreneurs, like we can be kind of a mess because we're borrowing money to start our company and then we're doing this. And it's like, how do we structure that and make it look really beautiful to the bank?
And we've never like used hard money in our process. I see that be a great springboard, but sometimes those aren't available or the numbers don't work with maybe the costs that are associated with it. So where Jamie has always been a bright light is in the world of marketing. And so she ends up teaching people how to create that cash machine or increase the revenue that you're generating from whatever it is that brings your primary income in, and then how we complement that and use more traditional or private lending options to scale maybe a more long-term hold type property or investments.
Yeah. And then one of the other struggles with when you're buying investments is as you scale, usually your CPA and your attorney kind of contradict each other. And so what we've done is we bring in an attorney and we bring in a CPA on 2 separate calls. And it's really good because it depends on where you're going, right? So and your risk tolerance. And so we really dig in directly with the attorney versus somebody having to go hire it out, have a separate conversation and communicate everything, because we've already been through it with several attorneys, several CPAs, of understanding, okay, you know what, this is why we did that. Even though we were given this advice, here's why we would have done it differently next time. Mm-hmm. You could do it that way, but here's what we would recommend based on, the scenario. And so it's really neat because we do a Q&A with the attorney, with the CPA, Brad, and then I show you how to actually identify a property, and then my goal if it's your first one is like, how do you buy a property and have a tenant ready to move in the day after you close? And so I want people making money like immediately, because if it sits vacant, that's actually a lot of money, especially as a brand new investor. So we want to get it marketed and ready. So like little things like asking the listing agent for the photos so that you can promote it as a rental, and asking for that in the agreement in your offer so that people like that you're allowed to do it. You're not going to convert the tenant until you close, of course, but just little things like that. And so we've been I love doing those boot camps. We need to be more open about them, because we're just like, we basically have been kind of like, what do you call it, like organic. It's like when somebody asks, we're like, okay, we're going to host a boot camp, but getting that more regular. And we've got one this month in August. I don't know when this will go live, but if you're listening in August, you can definitely hop on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I will put a link below the video here in the description for your upcoming boot camps, and people can join in. You guys have so much experience, so much wisdom to share, and new people don't even know what they don't know. So it's great that they can connect with you guys and learn how to get started. So that's fantastic. Well, let me ask this. If you were to give one piece of advice, and both of you can answer this if you want, you probably have separate answers. One piece of advice for somebody who's brand new and wants to get involved in real estate investing, what would you tell them?
You go first.
Mine would be, don't believe that there's some like unicorn deal out there. It does take some upfront effort to go through and find the right opportunity for you, but there's no one size fits all solution. It's about having an open mind and looking for the opportunity, as opposed to just believing that it like shows up out of nowhere and that it's a very clear path to, from point A to point B.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm going to share this episode with like 4 people for sure that just asked me this exact question. But if you have a dream property in mind and you're like, I want to use investments to get there, could you utilize that property as an investment property while you're living there until you can afford it, basically? So we've utilized short-term rental income in our own properties. So like I keep getting asked, like, we want to buy an acreage and we want to do this. And so I just encourage you to like not limit yourself and actually like look at that property and say, because it just start with one and reach out to us and like, let's play with the numbers, because we've done it. We've bought luxury properties and it's because of the rental income and what we've been able to do in our portfolio.
Yeah.
And then Think and Grow Rich. It's a great book to read.
There we go.
Yeah, no, that's great. And along those lines, I think, Brad, you were telling me you love to get out and do active sports. I know you ride the one wheel with your son, and you were talking about wanting to do some more skiing. So you're looking at maybe buying another investment property in Utah?
Arc City. Yep.
Awesome.
That's the next on the docket for sure.
Well, we will have to hit the slopes together, because I love that too. I'm an active kind of person as well. Hey, how can people get a hold of you? I know I'm going to put the link for the boot camp, but in terms of just in general, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you guys?
We're both super active on Facebook.
Facebook, if you search our names, bradandjamieflanagan.com, right there. Take us out individually. You'll definitely find us on all the social platforms.
And our boot camps and everything. We have a Facebook group, Brad and Jamie Flanagan, Wealth Through Real Estate. So we live on Facebook world.
All right. That sounds great. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to jump on the show here. And I'm glad that we could connect. I'm looking forward to working with you guys in the future, and hopefully some people will see this and want to join in with what you guys are doing and take advantage of all the experience and knowledge you guys have. So thanks again for jumping in today.
You as well, Tim. Have a great day.
Right. We'll see you later. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Investor Spotlight. I hope that you got some value out of this today. And if you did, just click on the buttons to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on Investor Spotlight.